Hi, welcome. My name is Tammy, and I am the founder and spiritual director of the Magdalene Center for Healing and Holistic Wellness. I want to thank you for being here, for clicking on this video to learn a little bit more. The intention of this video is to just introduce you to what I hope will be a very clear description of what not only what the center is, but who it's for, and also what type of space I hope to hold here. If you haven't already, I would really encourage you to go to the website. There is a lot of information there. There's also going to be additional videos that I'm going to create actually right after this one that are going to be specific to the values of the center, and then another video that will tell you a little bit more about my background and my story. For the purposes of this video, I want to let you know that I consider myself a recovering Catholic, and what that means to me is just I am a woman who was born and raised into Catholicism. I practiced Catholicism for 40 years of my life until one day I was, really just experiencing this agitation and irritation in Mass, and I found myself to just gradually over time become more and more disconnected from what I was hearing and from what I was feeling, and I was doing a lot of going through the motions, and spiritually and emotionally I knew that I needed more. I do have quite an interesting story. There's a lot more to it. Again, I don't want to include it here, but I did want to encourage you to again click on the other video if you're interested in understanding some more of the mystical aspects of my experiences and how they informed the center. But again, who is the center for? The center is for people who might identify as a recovering Catholic, just as I explained to you I was. But it's also more than that. It's for, you don't have to be Catholic. Maybe you were a Christian and you're feeling all of the same types of feelings that I just explained when you were in church. So anything within that Christian, spectrum, and frankly, anyone. If you are a spiritual seeker, maybe you are even interested in learning about Catholicism or learning about Jesus, or you know Jesus in a certain way, or his mother. Certainly, his mother is one of the most important figures in my life, and was ultimately she was the one who called me home to her and reintroduced me to her son, and then most certainly helped me to connect the dots to the Magdalene, who was also present, very present, for me before I even recognized that she was. So the center, again, is for you if you identify as a recovering Catholic, as a Christian who is struggling with their faith. I use the word tepid in the description, right? Maybe you still go to church, maybe you're still attending Mass, maybe but you're going through the motions, right? You're realizing that there's something missing, and that you're wanting to see a different kind of change, either in the world or within yourself. But newsflash, that changing the world happens within yourself first. So you've definitely found the right place. I think one of the reasons that I became the most discontent with Catholicism was all of the doctrine and the dogma. And I realized as I moved away from Catholicism how much of that impacted my life, and how much of that dictated certain thoughts and feelings, and mostly they were negative. I felt a lot of fear. I felt a lot of agony over decisions that I had made or thoughts that I was having. And I wanted to move away from that to understand what that was, and where those rules were derived from. And when you start to do that digging, you start to realize that they're built on a whole lot of nothing, and just essentially as a power grab. And there's a lot of greed and corruption, and the church has a very long history of a lot of these things, and we know this. What I realized into this journey was that very little of that impacted my relationship with Jesus, who I call Yeshua to differentiate him from the versions of Jesus that are floating around in the world today. My relationship with Yeshua was unchanged despite all of the things that were happening in the church. And I couldn't make that connection right away, but I knew, because of all the things I experienced as a child, that much of what I did experience, the church was not Jesus, right? Yeshua was not the church. They're actually not connected. I mean, they are, but they aren't. And I think that that's what this center is about. That's what this path is about, is that you don't have to go to church to have a relationship with Yeshua. You don't have to go to church to have a relationship with the mother, his mother, the great cosmic mother. And more than anything, the Holy Sophia, who lives and exists within all of us, and she is all of them. None of that is exclusive to a building, to an institutionalized religion. In fact, I believe that the spirit of Yeshua, his mother, the Sophia, it can't be contained. It actually can't even be comprehended. And so for us to dare try and narrow down or capture that kind of energy is frankly ridiculous. And when you come to terms with that, and that I did, it frees you. It frees you to be able to say, I don't know, and to be able to say, I don't understand. And then that's when I think the journey really begins, because then you begin to really sink and learn to lean into the mystery. To be able to say that there's a part of me, my divinity, that the human part of me can never will never be able to comprehend. But yet my work is to actually create union between them. And that is what Yeshua embodied, and that is what the Magdalene learned to embody, and that's what we're here to do. So is this outside of Catholicism and Christianity? Yes, but no. I think it actually, the work within the center is this beautiful intermingling of all of it. But yet it's outside of any of the rules, because within the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, if you stick around, you'll learn Yeshua specifically calls out that we should not create rules, that the rules will actually just trap us and result in something else other than the true spirit that lives within us and calls to us to know the truth. And that's a whole other thing for certainly another time. I think one of the most important aspects of the center is the building of community, which you'll hear in the values. I believe that in order for us to really reestablish the work, this aspect of Yeshua's work, and to be able to understand the power of what this aspect of his message was, we need a community that not only understands it, but is committed to walking it together and to living it together and supporting each other as we do this together, because this is hard work. And so that's another thing I think I want to just be very clear. This is work for people who are called to it, who are ready for it. It may not be for everybody. And that's not only is it okay, it's perfectly right. It's very mystical. It's a contemplative path. This path that I've been taught and that I practice came from within me. And the experiences were so powerful and have led to my own spiritual growth. And then as I read about other contemplative mystics like Saint Teresa of Avila, who is one of my absolute favorite, actually, the aspects of her story, although different, were the same. And so I think this is just a continuation of the same calling that happens from within us to know ourselves so well that what happens outside of us is not irrelevant, but can be, we can learn for that to happen without it changing what's we have inside of us. You develop a relationship with something within you that becomes frankly untouchable. It's just so beautiful and so powerful that I believe it is part of my vocation to share this with you, because everyone should at least hear about it. Whether you choose to do with it is none of my concern. I'm only here to tell you about it. What you do with it and how you choose to use it is completely and entirely up to you. That's the beauty of the work. One of the things that I found within the contemplative path, and also with this call from the Magdalene, was this journey down alternative gospels that exist in the world. again, another thing that happens when you step outside of Catholicism or you step out of the church, you realize that there's tremendous, tremendous amount of work that exists outside of what we've been narrowly focused on and what we're told we have to stay narrowly focused on. And, I believe that there's a part of me, I think, when I was very, 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 very Catholic, that thought, well, those things are excluded because, there's some type of protection there for me, right? I shouldn't know about those things. And that's like fed into us, right? That's like wired. Like, you shouldn't know so that it protects you. What's incredible is that I found it to be just the opposite. That what's in these Gospels is everything that I've been looking for. It's the piece that's frankly been missing, that had me so irritated and agitated when I was in Mass. That, again, there's so much to my story and so much to everyone's story. That's why storytelling is so incredibly powerful. The alternative Gospels, and in particular what we'll focus on here in the Magdalene Center, is the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. And the reason for that is that it's told from this, it's just very, very different. It stands out. It stands out in every way. And I don't think we have evidence that this gospel was actually written by the Magdalene. But what we do know is that her name was attached to it. And so this may have been what she taught and captured through someone else, just like the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John represent. And it just changed my life. It changed my life. It changed my view of my faith, and it frankly brought me back to my faith, back to my own knowing, back to my own truth, back to a path that has resulted in these profound experiences that I'm sharing, that I can't wait to share with you, because they tell the story of this aspect of my own divinity that exists within me, but that exists within you, that exists all around us, within us and around us. And when you can become awakened to and aware of it, it absolutely changes the trajectory of your life. It is truly transformational. It's transformational from the inside out. This is not about change. This is about true transformation. Here's what I came up with. The center is committed to offering a nurturing and a supportive community where we learn to walk and practice the way of the Magdalene, a mystical contemplative path that combines the tenets of the Gospel of Mary Magdalene with Jungian psychodynamics. This is shadow work. This is what I'm referring to, the shadow. There's much to talk about there. The whole curriculum, there's an entire curriculum that I've built that will be part of the Way of the Magdalene community membership. If you join the membership, we'll be walking through all of these foundational aspects of this work and how they combine with the gospel. There's so much, and it's just so incredibly exciting. But that's the aspect of this that I want you to understand, is it's the gospel with shadow work that Carl Jung eloquently has shared in the world, which is, I believe, captured. I've made the connection between them and the Gospel of Mary. And what it does is together they unveil this source of our connection to the divine within us. And it also requests of us to dig into these three levels that Mary calls out in the gospel, which is representative of the 7 demons that she is written of being healed from Yeshua, that we ultimately learn to do. We learn that healing of ourselves, of recognizing these 7, quote, demons. But they're not demons. They're just aspects of our personality that have been created by us to protect us, but then also, if not seen, heard, acknowledged, loved, and healed, drive and manifest how we see, exist, show up in the world. But when they're healed, they become integrated, and we remember that this part of us, that part of us who we've created to protect us and to that once healed can rest. And we allow the soul to step forward, which leads through connection with our divinity in seeing the world in a different way. This is an ongoing, lifelong process, and it requires support, period. And that's what I hope that the center will offer. It leads us to this reactivation of the natural intuition that we had as children before these aspects of us had to be created to protect us. And we derive a new sense of self, where we develop emotional and spiritual authority. This is where living and existing outside of the tenets of a religion, I think, are limited. Where here we recognize that the authority comes from something much greater than any religion or religious authority could ever put on us, because it's a knowing that comes from within us. It's the Yeshua who lives within us. His resurrection is within us. His knowing, the Holy Sophia, the wisdom, the great wisdom that he gifted to us before his ascension is within us. It's asking to come forward. Soul-derived emotional, spiritual authority and freedom that leads to true belonging, knowing yourself so thoroughly, so perfectly, so completely that you know your triggers. You know the healed, powerful parts of yourself, and you know the unhealed parts of yourself, and you allow other people to reflect them back to you. You know that they're yours, not theirs. And so the accountability for how you show up in the world is yours. The triggers become your responsibility, not someone else's. This true belonging, knowing yourself so completely, allows you to connect authentically, not only within yourself, but with people in the world around you, because you allow them to be a mirror for you, and you are a mirror for them. And so that you can identify someone who maybe is in their shadow really quickly. You know why? Because you recognize the shadow that they have, because you own it too. The difference just might be that you have identified, acknowledged, healed that shadow part of yourself. Doesn't mean that it doesn't go away. You just know it, and you love it, and you integrate it so that you say, I see what's going on here. And that's okay, right? So you can then have a different level of compassion for the people that you meet, who you recognize that shadow aspect of themselves showing up. And then you can also recognize their light. We recognize, because when you recognize one, you automatically recognize the other. It's the great paradox, right? If you know the light, you know the dark. If you know the dark, you know the light, as long as you can both see them both and heal them both and bring them both together. And that is when we are the most powerful, is when we learn to actually interweave both aspects of ourselves, our light and our shadow. We need them both. One of them is not to be moved away or to be eliminated or to be healed as in it goes away. It's the opposite. It's that we actually know it so well that we use it. We take the power back from it and we use it to our advantage. We leverage it in the world to our spiritual selves and allow it to actually move through us. We create with it. We teach with it. We love people differently with it. We show up differently, again, in being able to offer forgiveness to ourselves, to others. But you can hear that, just me explaining this to you, right? You're probably hearing this kind of work is not easy, right? To be able to show up and have someone be nasty to you and you recognize that it's a shadow part of them, and maybe that trigger is a shadow part of you. The work that it takes to recognize the trigger and not be triggered, tremendously difficult. But I promise you it can be done, because I practice it. But that's the point, is it's practice again and again and again, forever and ever and ever and ever. And are you perfect 100% of the time? Is it ultimately ever not trigger you? The answer is no. The work of the community is to be able to have a support system that helps to bring you back to that place, that helps to bring you back to the center, where as you're doing your own work, to recognize your trigger, to understand what's beneath the trigger, to understand what part of you still needs to be healed. We all kind of share, right, this human journey of being able to say, yeah, I get that. Yeah, I've been there. It's really hard. Yep. Okay. Well, right. Tell us more. Tell us more. Tell us what you're doing. How did you heal it? Right? What works for you? There will not be a community that is going to give you the answer. That is not going to be the intention here. But what we can do is, again, mirror for each other, offer each other the things that work for us, those pieces of wisdom that the wisdom keepers will have to be able to offer to you and to each other. is going to be pivotal. This is why you'll see as you go to the website that my hope and my dream and my belief is that we're going to ultimately have this set of elders. I know that right now there are people in the world who are doing this work on their own, who are likely feeling very lonely. I do this work on my own, and I'm going to tell you that it's lonely. Imagine if you had a community of people who know this work, who are doing this work. Maybe you're very advanced in this work. Imagine what it would be like to meet with fellow people who know this work and are advanced in this work. We need you. We need you. You're probably already a wisdom keeper. Please bring your wisdom here. Join our community. We need the wisdom keepers, and we need the wisdom keepers to continue to teach us, and also then for us to continue the journey, those of us who are on the path, so that we can become the next set of elders, and on and on and on and on. I hope and believe that this center will in fact be its own legacy, and that the work, this part of the message of Yeshua, of the Magdalene, of his mother, of the Holy Sophia, and all of it becomes its own continuation of the legacy that already exists. This is just a place for us to bring it together. This is a space where we as a people who recognize the work, who feel resonant within us, whether you're started the path or not is not the point. It's being called, and it's a place where you can step outside of the world and you can breathe. You'll find that the space I intend to hold here is a space of calm. It's a space of not being alone. It's a space of not being alone in your head and in your thoughts and in your heart and your visions, in what you may already be experiencing in your own practice. It's a place where when we do gather as a community, that at first, if we're small, which I'm sure that will be the case, that we feel seen and heard and safe. And that this community ultimately grows. It grows in a way where all of a sudden now we have different groups of people who gather in their own ways because they feel seen and heard and safe in their own ways. Where we can learn to actually hear and feel the quiet that we all desperately need. That we hear we exist and learn to exist in the quiet in a way that allow us to hear the voice, discern the voice of our soul, as we work through the differences in what we hear in the shadow voices. Not only in discerning them and healing them, it just begins with first recognizing them. That you feel the courage to be able to acknowledge that one of those shadow voices has caused you a lot of pain, caused others a lot of pain. That the community itself may hold space for you to find that healing and acknowledgement out loud. Know that I intend to be able to hold space for you one-on-one, if it is so your calling, for you to be able to do that work in a private, more intimate setting. That there's something beneath the noise, where we share our story, where we're together learning to do this inner work, and that we find that there is this practice that unites us as a humanity that's outside of whether we're a Christian or a Catholic or a Protestant or an Episcopalian or a Wiccan or a witch. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't matter, because this work unites us through our humanity. The power of working with our humanity and connecting it to this part of the divine that lives within us, it is an ineffable experience. That's what makes it mystical. And there are different levels to this mystical place that you can experience. One of the favorite teachings that St. Teresa of Avila offers is that this calling is a calling, and that when you're called, if you're called, you're in it. And that we can only progress based on the grace of God. And when I read that, it gave me such tremendous comfort, because I realized that I don't have work to do here outside of being willing to see myself. The real work, the healing work, that's my skin in the game, is being able to see my shadow, get beneath the shadow, get beneath those parts of myself that have caused me pain and suffering and wounding and action from the wounding. That's my work. The part of this path that I am the most grateful for and that I feel the most responsibility to share. Because, as I said, Carl Jung eloquently describes this concept of the shadow. This is way before anything that I've come up with or that's been given to me. But the part that I feel the most responsibility to share is the inner healing aspect of the shadow. That when you learn the psychodynamics piece, now we're left with this understanding, but yet there's work to be done that goes beyond what we're capable of doing on our own. And I mean that it's what we're capable of doing on our own outside of community, outside. This is a mystical, this is a spiritual, it's within the mystery that happens in prayer, and it happens in contemplation, and happens only through the grace of the Great Mother, of her Son, and of the Holy Sophia, whose alchemy ultimately transmutes the pain, the suffering, the wounding into a healing that produces a different kind of fruit. Yeshua spoke of this. He lived his life this way. The Lord's Prayer, translated through Aramaic, I've found all the pieces that link to this exact work, and it has blown my mind, transformed my heart, renewed my faith, and it is my daily practice, my daily work. It's given me a freedom that I want you to have. It's agnostic to where you come from, yet unites us again in your humanity by finding this mystical aspect of Yeshua, of the Mother, of the Sophia, that does this work within us, with us, that allows the scales to fall from our eyes, our ears open, and we see, we hear, we break through the shell of ourselves that we've created in order to survive. And we go from surviving to thriving. The center, I hope that it will grow all of us together, emotionally, spiritually, without rigidity and rules, because this is your journey. This is your journey. I can be a guide if you so desire me to be. I'm going to lay the foundation for you, for all of this, from what I can offer from Jungian psychodynamics concepts piece to certainly the mystical aspect and the journey that I've had and the teachings that have been given to me through my own work, through my own experiences, through the own lessons, through the grace of God that have somehow arrived in my brain. Have I made it clear? I'm not sure that I have. If you go to my website, you can check out. I don't have a degree in theology. None of this was ever my intended path. I'm a pharmacist, right? I've been in corporate America for 20 years. What I share with you has come from within me through my own prayer, through my own contemplative practice, which I think is a testament to this work, and I hope you'll agree if you stick around. I want it to support, I want this community to be, and I think it naturally does so if you're doing the work. If you're called and you're doing the work, it naturally supports, the center will naturally, organically support and foster an environment of forgiveness, of reparation within ourselves and for each other. This work cannot be done without there being an ancestral call. It is a recognition of the wounds beneath us we carry are not just from our own existence, but we likely carried forward from our ancestors. Being called to heal yourself is a call to heal that lineage. And when you explore that, it's a whole different level of work and of peace and reward and tremendous, you'll feel responsibility, but it's just amazing. Again, that authentic connection and true belonging. And it because of the mystery, because the aspect outside of the psychodynamics literally depends heavily on an understanding of this mystery and a falling into the mystery and a reliance of not knowing so that the mystery can happen. It opens the door for all kinds of questions and curiosities that come from within us. This is where the loneliness can really be debilitating, because if you don't have a group of people or friends good spiritual friends to really mine through, right? To really mine the wisdom, to mine the experiences together, it can be frankly very overwhelming. And you feel so alone because you're like, I don't have anyone to talk. No one knows what I'm experiencing, right? No one knows what's happening right now to me. And that feels, it makes you feel crazy. It makes you feel alone. It makes you feel like there's something happening that you can't control, which is true. And I intend to change that. I think that that's the whole intention here is I know this is happening. I know that this is bigger than me. I'm not the only one. I'm not unique to this. I know this. But what I am called to do is to call those who are experiencing it together, to create a path forward for those who are called and will be called, so that they are not alone, so that this is very clear about what we're doing and that we figure it out together as we go. That's what we will do. That's what I hope we'll do. And so there's going to be this really deep philosophical, because of the mystery, metaphysical experiences that we'll be part of naturally and organically because we'll be doing the work. And in doing the work here in the community, right, it will naturally bridge to our lives. Because if you're doing the inner work, it transforms your existence in the world. And so the world around you begins to change. And as the world around you begins to change, all of that comes with a whole new set of experiences, because people around you are going to say, what the hell is happening? Because you begin to change, they have to change. People will fall away, things fall away, but yet it opens the door and creates space for all of the things that are evolving within you to now come for you to attract and pull into you. That's how transformation happens. It's inside out. You transform so that what's outside of you, what the truth of who you are becoming now is what you attract to you. We'll do this in this bridging, to our real life. And that's where the practice happens, by the way. You might bring to the center like, oh my God, this is what I was so triggered, right? What is this? And so now you're getting underneath it. You're doing your own work. Maybe you're bringing it to holding space, or to, it's something within you is clicking in your own contemplative prayer work and the spiritual practices that will happen. By the way, there's a whole toolbox of spiritual practices that will enable you to hone in on these skills of contemplation, of prayer, of learning how to pray. This is something else that just blew my mind. I think people crave wanting to understand how to pray. I'm not sure that it is something we really know, especially if you come from the Catholic faith, right? We're taught that, praying is, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with me, the Our Father, right? Our Father who art in heaven. That's a great beginning. Don't get me wrong. What? But there's something more. There's something so much more to it. So learning to pray, learning to reach the prayer of the quiet with the grace of God, and learning to understand the prayer of union. That's very, very advanced. I can't even imagine, but I know it exists. I know it exists because I've read about it. and it's been experienced by all mystics throughout time. So we can do it too. I know we can. There's ritual, beautiful ritual, that when you reconnect to these parts of you and the things outside of you, the rituals become natural. I create my own. I'm going to create them for you. But what I think you will find, and you're welcome to use all of it, but what I think you're going to find is as you do the work and as you begin the practice, your own rituals will come organically through you. So can we as a community gather to do? Absolutely. Do I expect those rituals to be enriched by your experiences? Absolutely. Do I also expect you to be able to conduct your own in your own way that feeds your soul in your journey? Absolutely. You got to begin somewhere. So ritual, practice that soothes, recenters, harmonizes, brings us back to the place of understanding what the center looks like, feels like, is within you. The place within you that is untouchable, that is so powerful, that is quiet, it can never be destroyed. It can never be shaken. And it's not afraid. It exists, I promise you. And then through all of this, what does this do? It allows us to remain open, curious, inclusive, knowing what's for you, knowing what's not for you, and knowing what informs your journey and what doesn't. And whatever it is, it's okay. The work is for your journey. You dictate it. You do the work. But you're supported by those who are on a similar path or not. I think I'm over my 30 minutes. I'm at 35, but You'll notice that as I continue in doing this, I cannot create a script. My work is to just allow it to move through me, which I'll do. And so I hope this resonates with you. If it doesn't, that's perfectly okay. If it does, please join us. Know that there's no starting place that's right or wrong. You're always met exactly where you are through me. That's my responsibility and intention. But most importantly, that you will be met where you are with Spirit. He, she, they just want you to begin. They want you to humble yourself enough to begin. And so I hope you will. Again, my name is Tammy. This is my first YouTube video, the Magdalene Center for Healing and Holistic Wellness. I believe it is December 16th, something like that. And thank you. If you haven't already, please check out my website. You'll see that there's an upcoming webinar coming on January 8th. The center formally kicks off in January. There is a calendar of events that will be rolled out on January 1st. There's my newsletter. And of course, there's the Way of the Magdalene community, which I've just shared all the things about. There's a ton of more information on the website. Please, you can go onto the website again, sign up for all of these. There's the forms that you just click and put your information in, and the details will be sent to you, both the webinar, the Way of the Magdalene community, and so much more to come for the month of January. So I look forward to, if this calls to you, I look forward to meeting you, hearing your story, and to journeying with you. Thanks so much for being here today.